Reddy made Maths YouTube training videos. Teacher and teaching assistant training for EYFS. This is a bonus video that complements the two other videos from this week on tens frames. This is looking at early activities and 10 frame templates. Please do watch the other two videos as well. But if you want to see how 10 frames can be introduced and how they can be developed with small numbers, then please take a look at this video as well. What it also shows you is how to use 10 frame templates at the end as a visual resource to support children's conceptual understanding of numbers up to 10 and how they can be seen in different ways. Hope you enjoyed the video, and please take a look at the other two that go alongside it as well. Thank you very much. When we first introduce a tens frame or an egg box, if we're using egg boxes to the children in early years, it is worth just looking at the small numbers to begin with and letting the children see, a little bit like we're going to be looking at in later activities this week, that you can represent numbers in different ways. We'll definitely be moving towards that conventional approach later on of the 5 and a bit, where the children fill one of the rows, whether it's horizontally or vertically. So they fill one straight line and then move on to the next line. But before we do that, we just want the idea of we can move around small numbers. We can make small numbers in different ways, and it's still the same amount. Let's have a quick look. With a partner, if each one of you puts 3 counters in your tens frame, and then you compare your tens frames and talk about the image, and then you move them around and look at the new images that you've created, what the children will realise is that basically there's always 3. Doesn't matter what I do with them, if I move them around, there's still 3. Here's the first image, quite a standard image of 3, where the first 3 spaces from the top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, have been filled in. Let's see what the partner did. The partner did something very, very similar. What's the same, what's different? Well, we've both got 3 counters on the left-hand side of the tens frame. This time is 1, 2, 3. There are very, very common ways that children will fill in the 3 counters. Let's see what someone under the table is doing. Wow, they've created a kind of number frame image or a numicon image with 1, 2, 3, or possibly 1, 2, 3. They've filled the top corner with 3 blue counters. Their friend has done this. How would you describe that image? Is it blue, white, blue, white, blue, or is it just 1, 2, 3? Often the children will say, I put 1 in, left a space, put 1 in, left a space, put 1 in. Again, completely different image of 3 to these over here, but proving that whatever we do with them, there are still 3. And this is a lovely little image that could also be created of the 3, where you've got the 2 corners on the right-hand side filled in and the 1 in the middle. It is interesting. The point of this activity is not really to create patterns, but it's lovely when children do and tell you what their patterns are. But it's just to see, can they create 3 in different ways and realise that conservation of number is there are still 3. Doesn't matter whether they're in a straight line, whether they're in a triangle, whether they're separated in a sort of pattern, or whether they're just randomly displayed all over the box, there are still 3 counters. Just to extend the same concept, this particular song does exactly the same thing, but this time with cubes that are in a row. Very much like we've just done in the box, this one does it in a row and proves that no matter what you do with them, when you move them around, the actual amount still stays the same. See what you think.
Let's choose 3 and put them in a row. 3 in a row, 3 in a row, 3 in a row. I've got 3.
3 in a row, 3 in a row, 3 in a row. I've got 3.
If I move them all around, move them all around, move them all around, there's still 3.
If I move them all around, move them all around, move them all around, there's still 3.
From there, additional counters are added, so we end up with 4 in a row, and the same thing continues. And then we move on to 5 in a row. And of course, they get moved around as well. And then it finally continues until we've got 6 in a row. So it's the 6th one, which again get moved around into loads of different orientations. I'll just play this one for you so you can hear the final bit.
Now got 6. 6 in a row, 6 in a row, 6 in a row. I've got 6.
6 in a row, 6 in a row, 6 in a row. I've got 6.
If I move them all around, move them all around, move them all around, there's still 6.
If I move them all around, move them all around, move them all around, there's still 6.
And that, of course, fits in with a lot of the work that we've been doing this week. We can see numbers in different ways. At day 4, the activities that we're going to move on to, we're going to be looking at 6, for example, in lots and lots of depth. So we can see many, many ways in which we can arrange 6. Let's see how those basic tens frame activities can be developed. Well, this time children can work in pairs or 3s or 4s and develop it now into 4 counters, but this time of different colours. Now we can look at what's the same and what's different. Rather than just looking at the amounts, we can talk about the colours as well. There's child A, B, C, D. Just pause the video, have a look at each of those boxes. They've all got 4 counters. They've all got the same colours in, but what's the same, what's different? Or which is the odd one out, or just compare different ones. Choose 2 boxes, compare them, and talk about them. So, for example, you may have chosen the second box here and the third box in the middle. They look quite similar in that they've both got 2 pairs of counters. We've got a yellow above a red. Here we've got a red above a yellow. And on both of them, we've got the green on the top and the blue directly underneath it. At this point, children can start talking about position 2. So on the top row, it's in the second place, and in the fourth row, on the top row, it's in the 4th place. On the bottom row, the red is in position 2, and the blue is in position 4. We can bring in positional language. The green is in position 4 on the top row, and the blue is underneath. The red is in position 2 on the bottom row, and the yellow is above. So you can use that sort of language as well. You can use first and last. So the red is in the first place on the top row, and the green is in the last place on the top row. The yellow is in the first place on the bottom row, and the green is in the last place on the bottom row. We could compare the first box and the last box. The first box and the last box are both similar because they've both got 4 counters all on one row. Apart from that, they're very different because in the first box, they have all 4 counters together on the top row in the first 4 positions: red first, yellow second, green third, and blue 4th. Whereas on the last arrangement, they are separated into 2 twos, the green and the blue together, and the yellow and the red together. What's interesting about all 4 boxes is that the yellow and red are together on all 4 boxes, and the green and blue are together on all 4 boxes as well. There's loads of good fun activities you can do, just talking about the arrangements, realizing there's still 4, they're all different colors, but talking about the positional language, above, below, next to, in front of, behind, second, third, last, next to the last, and so on. There's loads of language that you can develop with that activity. Give your partner a number to make, such as 7. Check if they're correct. Tell the children, can you each make the number 6 in a different way? We'll be looking at this sort of activity in a lot more detail tomorrow. A couple of the examples you might get are the standard Numicon number frame image is 1. You may get 2 and 2 and 2, or you may get, hopefully you will get very soon, the conventional tens frame image of 5 and 1. Just to conclude, you could ask the children to make a number by showing them a digit card, showing them fingers, or rolling dice, and then you can talk about it. And alternatively, you can ask your partner to make 1 more or less than your number. So you're moving then into a different area of mathematics. Probably my favourite basic tens frame activity, and this can be developed with 4 counters or 6 counters or 7 counters, is basically to sit back to back. One of you makes an arrangement of however many counters, and then you ask your partner to make it by describing it to them. For example, you could make an arrangement like that, and then you can explain to your partner where each of the counters were, and what they've got to do is to basically replicate your image. They could then do the same thing with a more complex image. They can again put them in there and ask you to replicate that. It can be generally done. The partner explains and says the first space on the top row has got a red counter in, or whatever you're using other than counters. The third space or the middle space on the top row has got a green counter in, and so on. Obviously, the first image is easier to explain than the second one, but it's just a good way of getting children to work together and talk about their images. And that can then be developed into 6 or 7 counters, which is probably my favourite one. When there's 6 or 7 counters, children sit back to back and they try and explain to each other how they've set their image out. That one there is just a lovely symmetrical image as well that you can see, or a kind of semi-symmetrical image that you can see, but it's certainly a nice little pattern that's got quite a lot of good mathematics in it. And now we're moving on to probably my most standard activity that I will do with tens frames rather than with the actual egg box. As we've been showing in all the activities we've been doing today, it's so much better in early years if you're asking children to use the tens frame image to use something real or something that's meaningful rather than just counters in a tens frame. But when I'm showing them this sort of activity and we're actually developing the use of a number, it's quite nice to have a basic set of tens frames that you can use. Now, these will be available on this week's Dropbox link. You'll be able to print all these off. There are 2 versions of tens frames that I'm going to make available to you. There's going to be the black and white version that you've seen on the Ready Made Mathematics number board, and there's also going to be the coloured version. The difference between the two, obviously, the black and white version are all black and white. In the coloured version, you've got a different colour for each of the numbers. So if you want to focus on a specific number, in this case the number 9, then you can actually show the children all the number 9s in one particular colour, in this case purple. What I would often do with this activity is just give the children, a fraction of a second to have a look at the amount and try and work out what it is. So I basically flash that on screen and say, right, how many are there? How do you know? And let them talk about it and say, well, there's 9 because there's 1 missing. Well, which one was missing then? The first space, the first one on the top row. That was the one that was missing. The bottom row was full, the top row had 4 in. You get all these sorts of explanations, but generally what they've seen is 9 is 1 less than 10. It's a really good starting. As you can see from the next slide, it's still 9. And again, if the children are given a second to look at it, they'll know it's 9 because again, there's 1 missing. But the difference between the first image and the second image is the first one's a consistent kind of tens frame 5 and 4. This one, I only moved 1 counter, but children will describe this one in different ways. They might now say 3 plus 6 if they see the numicon shapes, the 3 and the 6, or they might say 1, 3, and 5. So they might say 1 on the top, a space 3, and then the whole bottom row has got 5 on. There's lots of different ways to describe it. This is a nice one. Just have a look at that for a second. How would you describe that image? Now, there's probably 2 main ways that children would describe that. Very common, a lot of children will say 4, 1, 4, or 4, 4, 1. Other children will see it as 2, 2, and 5. There are other ways. You can see a numicon 5 and a numicon 4, or a numicon 4 and a numicon 5. You even have children, sometimes if they've used a numicon image a lot, they actually see 2, 3, 2, and 2, or 2, 3, and 4. Loads of ways to see it. You'll always see 1 space. This one's more than likely seen as a 6 and a 3, but again, you can see the top and the bottom as well. As that develops into the number 8, that is a very common, probably the second most popular image of 8 that we're trying to develop, which is the number frame numicon image of 4 4 or 4 2s. We've then got a 2 and a 6, which is most children will just see that straight away because they'll just see the 2, they'll see the 6. The 4 4, which pretty much everyone in the world sees, that's the most common one of the lot. You just straight away see a 4 and 4, and the 2 spaces in the middle. That one, there's loads of ways to describe it. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. How would you describe that image? When I first look at that image, what I tend to see is a 2, and a 4. But then I look again, and I see 1, 2, and 5. I look again, and I see a numicon 3 and a numicon 5. There's many other ways to describe it as well. Again, another really nice image of 8. We know it's 8 because there's 2 spaces. Straight away, you can see that top row is full. So it's 5 at the top. You've got a 2 and a 1. You might well see a number 4, a 3, under 1, or a lot of children see a 4 and then they say, I've seen a 4 and a T shape. So a 4 there and another 4 over here. Last but not least, what stands out? Is it the bottom line that's full, or is it that little pattern on the top line of 1 space, 1 space, 1, 3 on the top, 5 on the bottom? Again, just doing simple activities where children are sat on the carpet and you're just showing them a quick image as a flashcard. And again, you can print all these off as flashcards, or you can do it as a PowerPoint and just flash it on the screen. Just say to the children, how many counters? And then explain to your partner, how do you know? And you get a lot of good description as well. I'd recommend using these for all the different numbers. And again, you can, if you want to, really go to town, you can actually make these yourself with different pictures. Then it doesn't have to be just circles or counters. It would be, really fantastic if you could create these with pictures of pirates or pictures of children or pictures of sheep. Whatever you want to do. If you have different pictures in there and actual real things were moving around the tens frame, it will be even more fun and even more engaging. Thanks very much for watching this bonus video on introducing tens frames and 10 frame templates. Please do take the opportunity, if you get a chance, to have a look at the 2 other videos that go alongside this. They are both looking at tens frames in different ways. First of all, looking at a range of different visuals and how 10 frames can be represented. And the other video looking at the use of tens frames for numbers up to 10 and then beyond, and looking at the actual overall picture of what you see with a full completed tens frame. Do have a look at those. Thanks very much for watching all of the activities this week.